G'day Internet, Max right here, and some pretty big news here just before I go to bed. This out from Bloomberg and Yahoo. So the SEC set to allow Bitcoin futures ETFs as deadline looms. So this is just out in the last couple of hours, and it's caused the price of Bitcoin to pump up. We're at 59,680 at the moment. Well, I'll go to the price in just a minute. So a little bit of background here. Since 2013, I think it was the first Bitcoin ETF application by the Winklevoss twins. And this just out. So the Securities and Exchange Commission is poised to allow the first US Bitcoin futures exchange traded fund to begin trading in a watershed moment for the cryptocurrency industry, according to people familiar with the matter. People who ask not to be named. So normally I don't trust that. I learned that in the media the last few years. But I suspect this one could be true. So the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, he's been a pro Bitcoin person for a while. We were kind of expecting this when he got nominated, that he would eventually be the one who to do this. He actually taught a course on money and blockchains at a prestigious university prior to becoming the chairman of the SEC, and so he's a pro blockchain person. And so he said about 4 months ago, I think it was, he said, listen, we're not opposed to a Bitcoin ETF. We're open to those kinds of things. I think more recently, about a month ago, he said I'd be far more comfortable with it being a futures ETF and not a Bitcoin spot price ETF, which caused a whole bunch of people to apply for futures ETFs. And that is what the headline says. It was allow a Bitcoin futures ETFs. So let's take a look. We will now. Oh yeah. So I wanted to jump back to this in case I covered this a few days ago. These are the approval dates. So according to the rules of the SEC or something, when you make an application, you are entitled to a response by a certain date. And so there are 5 different ETF applications all coming up where the SEC is required to give a response on these certain dates. October 8th, 18th, I mean, that's just 4 days away. And so October 19th, October 25th, November 1st. So, in the next kind of 2 and a bit weeks, they have to give an answer to these 5 ETFs. And from this article is suggesting that an insider who would rather not be named is saying that the regulator isn't likely to block products from starting to trade next week, said the people who asked not to be named while discussing the decision. Unlike Bitcoin ETF applications that the regulator has previously rejected, the proposals by ProShares and Invesco are based on futures contracts and were filed under mutual fund rules that SEC Chairman Gary Gensler has said provide significant investor protections. So, pretty important news because we would expect Bitcoin to really take off. According to a number of people, including Raoul Pal, according to what's his name, Mr. Wonderful, the guys who have actually got access to institutional money and who are aware of that world, they are reporting that there's $1 trillion of money waiting on the sidelines, waiting for this exact event to get in. So why is that? Why are they waiting for ETFs? The reason is that if you're like a pension fund or you're a Fortune 500 company, or you're worried about you've got a strategy with what to do with your treasury, there's a whole bunch of legalities and mandates and things that they are allowed to do, things that they are not allowed to do. And cryptocurrency just never fell into any of those categories. For Michael Saylor to do what he did, it was a whole thing that he had to spend months and months and months doing, changing the Treasury's mandate, publicizing that to shareholders, giving out shareholders an opportunity to leave to sell their shares and get out of the company, get in. It was a whole process, right? And generally, the companies just didn't have as much conviction as Michael Saylor had, and just didn't do it, right? So, but with a Bitcoin ETF, so when those pension funds, those Fortune 500 companies, all these other different institutions, with their mandates, with their rules, with their protocols, typically they are allowed to invest in different things on the stock market, right? They can just buy Apple shares, they can buy Tesla shares, they can buy Facebook shares. That's just something they can do. It's typical, it's standard. They don't have to do anything different. By a Bitcoin ETF being on the stock exchange, they can just, in their normal behaviors, They don't have to change any of their own regulations, any of their own internal regulations. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to let shareholders know. There's a whole bunch of legality problems just got solved for them, which means if they want exposure to the Bitcoin price, they can now just do it without going through all of those hurdles. It's like it's Bitcoin came to them. Whereas when Michael Saylor did it, Michael Saylor came to Bitcoin, right? With MicroStrategy. This is Bitcoin coming to them. And what we're hearing from Raoul Pal, from Mr. Wonderful, from really anyone who's got any contact with this kind of world, is that there is just an enormous amount of interest on the sidelines waiting for this to happen. They want to get into crypto. They couldn't be bothered going to meet crypto, but now that crypto's come to meet them, apparently the money is on the sidelines. And so on the break of this news, let's just look, I'm on the weekly here, let's just dial this into the hourly. So this news broke about 2 hours ago, and that's this big beautiful candle here, right? And we jumped up from 57,200 to 59, nearly 200. Now we're up at 59,600, just about to break through to 60,000. Now, there is a lot of good things going on in crypto right now. The on-chain analysis is telling us that we have a greater percentage of coins than ever before concentrated in the hands of long-term hodlers. Just people who just are not going to sell, generally. I shouldn't say they're not going to sell ever, but they've demonstrated by their on-chain behavior that money goes into the wallet and rarely comes out, right? And so what that leads to is a supply shock. If the most number of coins and the highest percentage of coins that's ever happened of money is in the hands of people who are just not going to let go, typically what that means is we are at the beginnings of a several month, very, very exciting bull market, right? Now on the back of this news, this could get crazy really, really fast. So I hope you guys have been accumulating like I've been giving you the advice to do for the last 3-4 months, because this is not confirmed, right? So, well, it is confirmed by an unnamed source according to the reporter, but we don't know for certain that these ETFs are going to be approved. But if they are, that combined with on-chain analysis, it's a very, very, very exciting thing. We could see the price of Bitcoin really, really shift up and go parabolic, because now here's the mechanisms behind this, right? What you would expect to happen. It's like, okay, so what you want? I want to give you a little bit more clarity on futures. If companies can come in and buy these Bitcoin ETF futures, right? Well, the way the futures are working is it's people buying Bitcoin at a future price. So it's like a contract. I want to buy Bitcoin off of you in the future at X price. The person who accepts that contract, if they don't want exposure, and they don't want exposure, they just want to make money on their fees. They don't want exposure to the Bitcoin price. They're not gamblers. They want to perform this service and take their little cut. So what they do is they go and buy Bitcoin in the marketplace. For every time you buy an ETF futures contract, they go and buy Bitcoin in the marketplace. The price of Bitcoin goes up, the price of Bitcoin goes down. They don't care, because they bought it. The moment you bought the contract, they bought the real Bitcoin and held it on their books. Now, what typically happens, what happens with these kinds of ETFs, in the worlds of gold, silver, palladium, copper, all of these different environments have these futures contracts. No one wants to actually take possession of the copper, right? No one actually wants to take possession of gold. It's a pain in the ass to store. It's a pain in the ass to transport. And typically, all of these contracts are settled in cash. I have no doubt that these will be settled in cash as well. I'll be curious to know if they allow settlement in crypto, right? So even if it is, it probably means that the companies that they've waited for an ETF for a reason. They don't want crypto. They want to leave their money in the traditional markets. They don't have to change their rules. They don't have to change their regulations. They don't have to change their mandates. So they're going to want to take possession in cash, put it straight back in the market, buy Bitcoin, and this is the way that they can do that without going and signing up to Kraken or Coinbase and having to change all their rules, right? So as the money pours into the Bitcoin ETF, what that ETF should do, most likely, is they should go and buy the real Bitcoin and they hold it. That's taking up supply. And so if $1 trillion comes into these markets via this Bitcoin ETF, the ETF should go and buy those coins and hold them. And then at the end of those contracts, those things are settled, And this repeats every month, every few months, whatever, depending on the futures contracts, whatever it is. So that's what it's looking like. That's what's caused the price to go a little bit ballistic here. And look, we've got this big green candle. That is a big one. And that's in the space of an hour, I should point out. So, the price of Bitcoin rose like $2,000 in the space of an hour, from 57 to 59. Now we continue to climb up, and I'll be very interested to see what happens. Most of America is asleep, not at the computers, not watching this. By the time I wake up tomorrow, we'll see. So, Asia and Australia, they're just, it's their daytime. They're probably reacting to this. Europe's probably out of business hours. America's probably out of business hours. It'll be very interesting to see what happens after a full, 24, 48 hour cycle of this, and we'll see what happens. Also, the other thing is, for a good chunk of the world, it's all Friday. This is all Friday, right? It's Friday. Maybe they can move money around in time. I wouldn't be surprised if retailers here get a big advantage. They can act Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of the big movers, big money, won't be able to move in time to take action on this news until Monday, Tuesday. So I think we're going to see a few days here of some really good price action. But this is like buy the rumor, sell the news situation. It's like we'll have to wait and see. I don't trust it completely, but I just want you guys to know this is what's happening in the market right now. Okay, so let's hope we wake up tomorrow to a $60,000 Bitcoin. Let me know in the comments below. Is this a good thing for crypto? Are you excited? Do you think we're going to see a few days of price appreciation? Or is this fake news and it's designed to shake us out? Let me know in the comments below. If you like getting this kind of information as soon as it happens, then go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and give me that like, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.